It's July 21st here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with North Korea's warning over the U.S. nuclear submarine docked in Busan. The regime has threatened that the USS Kentucky's visit to South Korea may meet the conditions for a nuclear weapons use. Calling the rhetoric extremely dangerous, the U.S. has made clear the visit reflects its ironclad commitment to the Korean Peninsula. 7 clusters have been named as high-tech zones in South Korea to cultivate and foster leading roles in chips, secondary batteries, and displays globally. Ukraine's southern city of Odesa suffered a sustained Russian bombardment for 3 straight nights. And the U.S. slaps sanctions on more Russians and Russian firms to cut the financing of weapons production. Another warning from the north over the USS Kentucky. North Korea says the U.S. nuclear-capable submarine's visit to South Korea could give the North a legitimate reason to use nuclear weapons. Our Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
North Korea has heavily criticized the docking of the USS Kentucky, a nuclear-capable strategic submarine in South Korea, and the launch of the South Korea-U.S. Nuclear Consultative Group as a blatant and direct nuclear threat. North Korea's Defense Minister Kang Sun-nam, in a press statement released by North Korea's state-run Korea Central News Agency, called the situation the most serious stage of the U.S. planning and executing a nuclear strike against DPRK. He added that the DPRK's law on nuclear force allows them to take a necessary course of action when it is clear that a nuclear weapons attack on the country has been carried out or is imminent. Kang emphasized that the deployment of strategic weapons such as the nuclear-capable submarine falls under the conditions of North Korea's nuclear doctrine that allows the use of nuclear weapons in retaliation. He also said that using military force against North Korea will lead to disastrous consequences for both South Korea and the United States. The USS Kentucky arrived in the southeastern port city of Busan on Tuesday, the first port call from a U.S. ballistic missile submarine in Korea in 40 years. On the same day, the first meeting of the South Korea-U.S. Nuclear Consultative Group was held in Seoul. The Pentagon responded to the statement, saying that the submarine's port call to Busan was a planned military exercise stemming from South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to Washington in April, emphasizing that the move was part of its commitment to extended deterrence in response to North Korea's continued nuclear threats. The port visit was also referred to as a representation of South Korea and the U.S.'s ironclad commitment to defense. The Pentagon also said that South Korea and the U.S.'s efforts to protect their citizens from North Korean nuclear threats do not violate UN Security Council resolutions, unlike North Korea's nuclear provocations. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And ahead of the North's latest warning, top nuclear envoys of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan sat down in Tokyo. There they once again vowed stronger cooperation to cut off illicit funding for the regime's missile programs. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji reports.
South Korea's top nuclear envoy Kim Gov't has highlighted the need to strengthen trilateral cooperation between the U.S. and Japan to cut off illicit funding for North Korea's ballistic missile and weapons programs. He said this while holding a trilateral meeting in Tokyo on Thursday afternoon with his American and Japanese counterparts, Sung Kim and Takehiro Funakoshi. Noting that Kim Jong-un has reached a dead end, Kim Gov't said that at the top of their list is repatriating overseas North Korean workers and clamping down on malicious cyber activities. He also added that they will look for further action that can be taken to close the loopholes in the sanctions that are placed on North Korea, and said they're still open to talks.
We will strengthen our close communication and coordination to bring North Korea back to the path to denuclearization.
The U.S. nuclear envoy also said Washington remains committed to achieving denuclearization.
Our security commitments to our allies and partners are ironclad and unwavering, and we will continue to take steps to demonstrate our commitment to extended deterrence.
The 3 officials last met in person in Seoul this April. Thursday's meeting comes a day after North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles in an apparent protest against the arrival of an American nuclear ballistic missile submarine in South Korea, with the new Seoul-Washington security dialogue taking place for the first time on Tuesday. The regime also launched a solid fuel ICBM last Wednesday. The talks also come at a sensitive time after an American service member crossed the inter-Korean border into North Korea, fleeing before being sent back home to face military discipline. 배은지, Arirang News.
Washington is continuing to work to secure the safe return of the U.S. soldier who defected to North Korea earlier this week, and no official word from the North yet. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said on Thursday the White House, the Pentagon, and South Korean authorities are all working together for information on the whereabouts and well-being of Travis King. The spokesperson declined to comment on whether North Korea had at least acknowledged receiving U.S. messages sent through available communication channels. The Kremlin has targeted the southern Ukrainian city of Odesa for 3 consecutive nights. Ukraine has struggled to defend itself, blaming less advanced defense systems used in the south. Lee Seung-ja has more.
Ukraine is struggling to defend its southern city of Odesa following 3 consecutive nights of attacks. According to Ukrainian Air Force, it destroyed just 5 of 19 cruise missiles overnight into Thursday, a far lower success rate compared to previous attacks targeting Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say it's due to less advanced defense systems operating in the southern regions of the country. The Russian Defense Ministry says these strikes were retaliation for the Ukraine's attack on the Crimean Bridge earlier this week, adding it targeted facilities linked with Ukraine's seaborne attack drones. However, Ukraine has refuted the claims, saying Moscow is targeting civilian infrastructure associated with grain exports, especially as it refused to renew its grains export agreement on Monday. Among the buildings damaged in the attack on Odesa was the Chinese Consulate General. A Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said it's assessing the extent of the damage and offering any assistance needed. And according to UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has strongly condemned the sustained attack on Odesa. The spokesperson added that the attacks have consequences well beyond Ukraine, as a negative impact on global wheat and corn prices is already being seen. Meanwhile, the U.S. sanctioned more than 120 Russian and Kyrgyzstan firms on Thursday for what it said were their contributions to Russia's war on Ukraine. The U.S. State Department said the latest move would further cut off Russia's access to critical raw and manufactured materials, which finance the production of weapons. Also included in the list of those sanctioned is a North Korean who supported the Wagner group by helping with the shipping of weapons to the mercenary group. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
Many regions across the globe are feeling the impact of extreme weather, from torrential downpours to extreme heat waves. Now, what's behind the unsettled and at times severe weather patterns that we've been seeing in the past years? To answer the question, we're joined by Professor Jung So-young from Korea University this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
South Korea was enveloped by torrential downpours this past week. I'm sure you're pretty aware of that. But so were Japan and India. What's behind this unusual extreme rain?
Well, it requires some of the understanding about the scientific factors, actually. So starting with climate change, right? We all know that the climate change is a very serious problem now. And that causes the sort of the increase of the water temperature in the Pacific Ocean around the aquatic area. And then simply increasing 0.5 degree for 5 months. And it will cause not only the temperature increase, also change the currents on the ocean. So we call it as El Nino, right? And El Nino also brings us to the Korean Peninsula by bringing more humid, and then also which contains the more vapors, and then which will form a strong high pressure. And then at the same time that we have cold pressure coming from the north, but because of the the temperature increase in the northern atmosphere, then this the pressure actually has weakened weakened, which contains the cold one. So in the end, at this time in Korean Peninsula, it comes with like a very heavy rainfall. We call it as atmospheric river. So it sounds like it contains almost all the river water, and that pours the heavy rains in the Korean Peninsula that we have been suffering from these days.
Sure, increased in water temperatures and also change in currents leading up to the phenomenon known as El Nino.
Right.
But in the meantime, the other side of the world is experiencing a completely different weather situation, right? The U.S. and parts of Europe are under extreme heat waves. Now, the state of Arizona recording 48 degrees Celsius in the past week. What's happening over there?
Well, actually, today in Seoul, where I am, actually we started to have actually very heat wave already in the morning. Actually, that also happens everywhere, not exceptionally in Europe and the United States, and that's also related to what I have partially described about. Actually, the increased temperature in the Earth actually changes the sort of the patterns of the pressure. So we have high pressures and low pressures, but because of the temperature increase, we tend to have a very strong jet stream in the northern hemisphere, which has been weakened. And then that has helped actually high pressure form a stronger formation than before. Actually, high pressure attracts more sunshine to the atmosphere, and then that helps us, actually brings us the more heat waves a lot more than before. And then unless we address climate change, actually this pattern will only increase as time goes by.
Sure. In the meantime, the U.S. Special Climate Envoy John Kerry visited China this week to reestablish climate agreements between the U.S. and China. Now, no fresh agreements there. Why is it so hard to get China involved in the fight against climate change? I mean, why does it matter so much that China plays an active role?
Well, based on the science understanding that I briefly explained about, and then it sounds like it's necessary for all the countries to get united and orchestrated to fight against the climate change. However, all different countries have also their own interest-based way of thinking. We sometimes call it as a national interest-based approach. And then these days, especially because of some of the formation of the new, sort of the political, possibly confrontation between the U.S. and EU-led group versus China and the Russia-led group, and that has actually prevented very severe barriers in terms of the fighting against the climate change as one single group. So I do hope that John Kerry's visit will help China to better understand, even if there are some differences in the political and economic matters, but this one, the climate change issues, should be addressed as one single actor, in the sense that I do hope that China will be persuaded enough to come back to the talk on the climate change once again.
Right. That's why it is important to separate diplomacy from the fight against climate change, as they are two different topics. And climate change is something that we all are facing as a global challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, experts around the world warn climate change may only worsen the situation and result in even more extreme weather conditions in the coming years. Now, what actions, Professor, do you suggest we should implement and promote here in South Korea and around the world so that we can maybe prevent or at least slow climate change?
Well, we need to increase the ambition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by every country. Here in Korea, I think the current administration is doing its own efforts to do so, but I do hope that we will strengthen more sort of the control tower within the president's office so that the different ministries can be united actually under the same goal of fighting against the climate change. To do so, we have to maintain every effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions so that we can maintain the goal that we voluntarily set That's a 40% reduction in 2030 as planned. And then during that time that we can deploy all these different low carbon and carbon neutral technologies that will also help us to create new jobs. So, fighting against climate change is not only about a matter of survival, but in the end, it can be a very good chance for us to create new jobs during the process of this very important endeavor together with other countries.
Sure. Thanks so much for your insight this morning, Professor Zhang. You have a good day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Seven regions in South Korea have been designated as special clusters for national advanced strategic industries, with hopes that the move makes the country's grip on global technology like chips even firmer. Our Lee Si-hoo reports.
The government has designated 7 regions across the country as what it calls special clusters for national advanced strategic industries to foster the growth of cutting-edge technologies and into which it will invest 614 trillion Korean won, or around $483 billion. The announcement was made by the Office for Government Policy Coordination after being finalized at a related committee meeting presided over by Prime Minister Han Duck-soo.
The South Korean government will give all directional support for these special clusters to become global innovation areas with internationally overpowering production capacity.
The designated clusters are Yongin and Pyeongtaek in Gyeonggi-do Province, Gumi and Pohang both in Gyeongsang-buk-do Province, Cheonan and Asan in Chungcheongnam-do Province, Cheongju in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, the Saemangeum Coastal Region in Jeollabuk-do Province, and Ulsan Metropolitan City. 21 regions applied for the government designation and support, but only the 7 were selected, based on criteria such as the presence of innovative enterprises in the region, investment plans, and potential for growth. The clusters will focus on advancing technologies in semiconductors, displays, and rechargeable batteries, among others. The special clusters will receive, quote, a comprehensive support package, such as expedited government approvals, tax benefits, and budgetary support. Additionally, in the second half of the year, a pan-ministry council will be formed to provide a one-stop support service for the clusters. Meanwhile, the government also selected 8 universities, including Seoul National and Sungkyunkwan, to advance the cutting-edge technology required by these industrial clusters. To support them, the government is going to invest 54 billion Korean won to set up interdisciplinary curriculums and recruit talented teaching professionals. These moves follow a promise made by President Yoon Suk-yeol at an emergency meeting on the economy back in March.
오늘 발표된 국가 첨단 산업단지 조성이 신속하게 추진될 수 있도록 정부는 모든 노력을 다하겠습니다.
The government is also looking to expand the list of universities that it will support as it seeks to foster qualified talent that industries are looking for. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
MySpace, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now Threads. Will this new service be a wind of change in the social media ecosystem, or is it going to end up being a fad? Our Lee Jae-hyun reports.
We've seen one of the fastest sign-up rates for a social media app. It's Threads. While not social media, if we take ChatGPT as an example, it took 2 months to reach 100 million accounts. Threads reached that in less than a week. According to South Korean real-time data service WiseApp, more than 1 million people in South Korea signed up for Threads within 5 days of its launch. Threads is a text-based social network service that resembles Twitter. The app was built by the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, Meta, which means users can link the 2 social media apps, making it very easy for the 2 billion Instagram users to open a Threads account. Meta even said Threads will be, quote, powered by Instagram. And some recent controversial decisions made by Twitter and its owner Elon Musk have triggered some users to migrate to other apps, including Threads. In March, Twitter launched a new monthly and annually paid subscription service. Users also now need to pay to have a blue verification tick. So you have to pay to use Twitter without restrictions, as it limits you to read 1,000 posts a day for free.
This seems very timely, and I'm sure they've been working on it for quite some time, but this was perfect timing. with just the latest sort of little fiasco on Twitter with Musk rate limiting users and all that stuff. So yeah, the timing was perfect, and so it's not too much of a surprise, as expected in a way. Yeah.
A lawyer for Twitter, Alex Spiro, sent a letter to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg accusing the company of engaging in, quote, systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property, demanding that, quote, Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. But we might want to keep an eye on whether to find out if the arrival of Threads means the end of Twitter. Threads has not been released in Europe yet due to the Digital Markets Act, which bans U.S. big tech companies from dominating the European market. But there is a high possibility, experts say, that the service will be introduced there in a very short time. However, we have already seen that some new social media services come and go rather rapidly. For instance, Apple's Clubhouse, where people could communicate in audio chat rooms, went viral in the pandemic era. But with some social media services, the novelty wears off. As for Threads, users have complained that the app drains their batteries, so it still has some things to overcome to become a major player in the market. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in Belarus, as its defense ministry on Thursday confirmed that fighters from the Wagner mercenary group have begun training Belarusian special forces. Now, the training is taking place at the Brest military range, just 5 kilometers from the border of NATO member Poland. The announcement comes a day after a video was released appearing to show the mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin in Belarus, welcoming Wagner fighters. Now, Poland, meanwhile, has increased defenses on its side of the border since the start of July, adding over 1,000 troops. And its defense ministry says it's ready for various scenarios. Now, Russia has called Poland's move to up its border defense aggressive and a cause for concern. Iraq on Thursday expelled the Swedish ambassador in Baghdad over a diplomatic dispute involving the burning of the Quran in Stockholm. Iraq also recalled its charge d'affaires in Sweden and suspended businesses with Swedish companies. Now, hours earlier, Iraqi protesters stormed the Swedish embassy and set its compound alight. This comes after Swedish courts, under the right of freedom to assembly, gave permission to anti-Islam protesters on Thursday to burn the Quran for a second time outside the Iraqi embassy in Stockholm. However, protesters this time did not torch the book, but kicked and stamped on it. Protesters had previously burnt the Quran outside Stockholm's main mosque in June. Now, moving over to Germany, a lioness is reportedly on the loose on the outskirts of Berlin. Residents in nearby neighborhoods have been warned to stay in their homes. According to German authorities, an emergency call on Wednesday midnight informed them of a wild animal in the Kleinmachnow neighborhood. After assessing footage taken and sent by the caller, authorities said it's likely a lion. Hunters, vets, helicopters and thermal cameras are being used in the search, and police have asked that pets be brought indoors for safety. It's not known where the animal escaped from, as no zoos, animal centers or circuses have reported a missing lion. And finally, martial arts fans gathered at Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour on Thursday to mark the 50th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death. Meeting in front of a statue of the martial arts master, fans paid their respects and could be seen practicing his signature moves. Born as Lee Jun-fan in San Francisco in 1940, Lee was raised in Hong Kong. He got his start as a child actor and started learning Kung Fu when he was 13. He was best known in the 1960s and 70s for his martial arts talent and for fighting racist portrayals of Asians on screen. Lee died in 1973 from an allergic reaction to painkillers when he was 32. His death came just 6 days before the release of his most popular movie, Enter the Dragon.
Good morning. It's Jungbok today, which is supposed to be the peak of the summer heat. And living up to its name, most of Korea will experience another sweltering day with heat alerts being in place. Seoul could see a high of 34 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And there will be passing rains of 5 to 40 millimeters in most inland areas. So please have a small umbrella handy in case of sudden showers. Sunny skies will beam down, boosting UV rays to very high levels on this blistering Jungbok day. Daejeon sees a high of 34, Daegu and Gwangju at 33 degrees. Meanwhile, Jeju will see monsoon rain returning late tonight. It will rain heavily on Jeju tomorrow. Then on Sunday, it looks like it will be pouring down in central parts of the country on Daeseol, the last summer season term, meaning big heat. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Stay safe wherever you are.
Welcome. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라 감당할 수 있겠니?
Busan, Korea is already reaching the entire world. Like ocean waves that travel far and wide. It's Busan, the perfect World Expo city. Transforming our world, navigating toward a better future. World Expo 2030, Busan, Korea.
K-animation, loved and watched around the world. We want to make more animations to reach more children. Traveling time and space. Developing adventure and curiosity. Infinite creativity and hope. We want our children to grow up to be happy. K-animation, watched by children all around the world. So that joy can be felt when our animation is watched. This is the reason we make animation and share with the world. K-animation, befriending children all over the world.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's mine? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's July 21st here in Seoul. I am Shin-Yoon, and this is News Generation, where we make the news at Arirang's very own open studio. Every morning, we'll discuss the top issues and latest current affairs affecting people in their 20s and 30s. Joining me in the studio is Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
All right, now both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news stories that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Last month, a sixth grader reportedly assaulted his teacher so badly that she was in hospital for 3 weeks. He allegedly punched and kicked his teacher for telling him to go to counseling class instead of PE. This teacher asked nationwide teacher groups and the Seoul Union to write petitions so that the Education Ministry takes swift action against the student. So far, a total of 1,800 petitions have been filed. Officials decided to transfer the student to a different school. Over the past 3 years, the Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission found a total of 418,535 complaints about poor construction have been filed by apartment residents. The number of these complaints in June alone jumped by 12% compared to last month. And this news has stirred more concern as we've recently seen a lot of damage from torrential rain and flooding. Speaking of rain, rescue workers on Wednesday found the body of a Marine who went missing during a search and rescue operation for people missing in the heavy monsoon rains and landslides. He had been swept away by a stream in Yecheon County in Gyeongsang-buk-do province on Tuesday. Now, the Marine Corps has apologized to his bereaved family and said it has opened investigations to find who's responsible and what was lacking in terms of safety protocol. The Marine's death has enraged the public here in South Korea as we saw yet another young man lose his life on the line of duty. Now, our condolences to this man. What did you think about this upsetting news, Walter?
Well, I guess, like you said, what else is there to say about condolences to the family? I mean, this is a very dangerous season for us.
Yeah.
So we've got the monsoon season, therefore there's a lot of flash flooding. So people need to take more care when going outside, especially when it's raining so hard. I mean, it's not just the city as we saw last year, but the countryside deals with landslides, and this can cause, many of the rescue teams to go out and try and rescue the people. So, when it gets to this sort of weather, please stay inside and be as safe as possible. But again, condolences to the family.
Yeah, and also I think the public was outraged because we could have been better prepared. We always know that the summer is one of the wettest seasons here in Korea, monsoon, flooding, torrential rain. So hopefully we could have been better prepared to not see another young man lose his life on duty. Don't you think, Ji-hee?
Exactly. First of all, my deep condolences to the family as well. I mean, I feel very heavy-hearted to hear all these tragic accidents that occur, especially during a rescue operation. situation. It's very ironic because they're trying to save lives and they're unable to save their own life, which is very tragic. And apparently he wasn't wearing a life vest. I know it was a landslide rescue, but then the stream was what swept him away. And we've talked about this earlier in one of our previous shows, how industrial accidents occur because people don't abide by the safety guidelines or the safety rules. So I really hope that especially during these rescue operations, we really keep the safety regulations and make sure that we don't push the workers too hard.
And it really upsets me that every single time things like this happen, we say we could have prevented it. But why do we always say that after something happens?
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll see more precautionary measures be held from now on. And that was our news feed for this Friday. We're now going to change up the atmosphere a bit because it is a Friday today, which means it's time for another episode of Visit Seoul 2023. And what's more important than food when you're traveling? Today we're going to be talking about healthy dishes you can have while you're spending your summer here in Korea, especially since South Korea has the so-called 삼복 heat. It refers to the 3 hottest periods of the year. There's 초복, 중복, and 말복, which directly translated to is beginning, middle, and end. And today is 중복. 초복 was a few days ago on July 11th. And T, can you tell us a bit more about the origins of 삼복 and what type of food we have on these days?
Sure. So like you said, Korea has a very unique summer culture. We have the 3 복날, and these refer to the 초복, 중복, and 말복. And like you said, literally translated, they're the first, second, and third dog days. And that's because the 복 is a Chinese character, and you can see like a image of a dog lying down submissively under the very scorching heat during the summer. So we refer to that as the 복날. And people here in the country during the 3 복nals, they eat healthy foods to revive their stamina, and they even go visit valleys or mountains to escape the scorching heat of the summer. And we'll introduce the different healthy foods that we enjoy here in the country.
We definitely will. Our panelists, and including myself, will be introducing some popular dishes you can have during these 한복 days. But we also asked our viewers whether they're familiar with any 중복 dishes or healthy food in Korea. Here's what 3 of them had to say. Take a look at the screen. Now, Nureddin says 삼계탕, kimchi, and beef japchae. The japchae noodles are made from sweet potatoes instead of wheat. Giselle said kimchi and samgyetang are both great. For the hot summer, I enjoy naengmyeon and kongbuksu. They're very refreshing. I totally feel you. And Leon Teo said the 보양식 I like is samgyetang, which is ginseng chicken soup. Although I am aware of other 보양식 like 장어구이, grilled eel, and jeonbokjuk, abalone rice porridge, or kongbuksu. Now, our viewers have a lot of the dishes that we'll be introducing to you guys today. So as we mentioned, we're going to be introducing 3 types of healthy dishes to you guys. And the first might startle you because it's made from mud loaches. In Korean, it's called chuotang. Walter, would you like to take this one?
Yes, well, there isn't any mud in the food. That's what we want to talk about first. It's just the loach. They do clean them quite well. And yes, if we take a look at the screen, you'll see our little adventure that we had most recently.
All right, so today we came to eat mud loach stew. In Korean, it's chuotang. And Jihi, have you ever tried it before?
Oh, yes, I did. It's actually one of my favorite foods.
Well, what about you, Walter? Have you ever tried chuotang?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's my first time too. Then without further ado, let's go in. 이게 왜 보양식이에요? 그냥 너무 궁금해가지고.
고단백, 고칼슘에
고단백, 고칼슘인가?
네.
그 얘는 그럼 그냥 진짜 추워요?
네, 미끄러지.
I don't know why I can't do it. Oh, so nice. How is it? It's really good.
It's actually really good.
It's really nice. Is it nice? It's nice?
That's quite nice.
So we just had our chuotang. It was Walter and my first try. What did you think about it, Walter?
I thought it was really good. I think people should try it while they're here.
It was pretty good. I mean, it was like anchovy for me. Definitely feel a lot healthier.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to spend a really healthy summer here in Korea, make sure to try chuotang. It's apparently really high in calcium, a lot of protein, and it's one of the 보양식s that we'll be introducing to you today.
Yeah, so I mean, we saw by the comments a lot of people were talking about very similar healthy foods here in Korea, but I'm sure that they haven't tried that before, the loach stew or even the deep fried loaches as well. So it still surprises me from time to time. You know, I was born here but grew up in Australia where everything is very plain at the time. But Korea, we love to eat all parts of the animal. We also love to eat all types of seafood as well. So this one was a surprise to me because I only usually see loaches in like a documentary where they are out of the water and they're trying to get to the water and they're all covered in mud. But like I said, there is no mud in. I hope there wasn't any mud in our nice soup. But yes, it was a lot tastier than I expected. I didn't know what to expect going in. But it was kind of crunchy because I had the full fish one because someone lovely ordered it for me because there's two kinds, right? There's a grinded one and there's the full fish one. And I had the full fish ones that they have and there was a crunchy bone texture, which I understand people might not like. However, once you get past that, it's fine. So I think it was quite good. So you should try it out.
And I was the lovely person that ordered the full loach stew for Walter. I wanted you to try it out, Walter.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't want to try it.
But I eventually ended up trying it, and it was a bit difficult for me because it was my first time ever having chuotang, and a lot of my friends said they didn't know what chuotang was made of. That's why they could have it in the first place.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think about the image of a mud loach inside your food, even though it's grounded, you can have that visual in your head, right?
True.
So I wasn't too happy. I was very hesitant to try it out at first, and then when I tried the one without the grounded one, like the whole fish, it was very slippery.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. But then, as you mentioned, Shihi, in our little video, you did feel invigorated and healthy, right?
I did. I mean, I enjoy this dish actually during the summer times. And I like the grounded one because I can't feel the whole fish. And I tried the whole fish for the first time when we were together in the restaurant. But it really tasted like anchovy for me. And I did feel invigorated. But I don't think it's just the chuotang dish I had because recently I've been having the eel and I've had the samgyetang, which is the next food that I'm going to introduce.
You're really enjoying this hanbok taste here in Korea. And as you briefly mentioned, there's grilled eel, another savory, healthy dish. Walter, I hear that it's actually scientifically proven that if you have grilled eel, you'll feel invigorated, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So in Korea, it's a very tasty dish as well. It's cooked not like maybe you'll see in a Japanese restaurant or other places in the world, but it's Korean barbecue style, so like your pork belly that you would grill. So let's take a look at the screen and we'll show you. And this is actually a very good photographer who filmed this as well. And as you can see, it's more grilled over a fire rather than boiled like it was for the chuotang. And yes, the host is there
the photographer
enjoying
there,
it. But yes, eel has had great benefits. It's really high in calcium. It's good for our bones, much like the loach. It can also help reduce the risk of diabetes and arthritis as well. So I think many countries like Australia and the US, they get kind of cringy or they really don't like the look of these styles of food. But you know, the UK, they have eel and jelly as well. So I think for any Aussies out there or any Americans, you definitely go out of your comfort zone and try eel because it's very delicious.
Grilled eel is really nice. If you like pork belly, there's a very high chance you'll like 장어구이 as well because it's similar, as you mentioned. And as you could see in the video, I had it over the weekend and I still feel quite healthy. I don't know if that's placebo because everyone's telling me that you're supposed to feel healthy, but I feel really strong.
I don't think it's placebo because I had it over the weekend as well. I feel invigorated.
And not only did you have grilled eel, but you also had samgyetang. So why don't you introduce us to what samgyetang is about then?
Sure. So let's take a look at the screen first to see how samgyetang looks like. And it's one of the most popular dishes here in the country during the Bongnal days. And as you see, there's the chicken in the soup. And we also include ginseng, jujube, and garlic, all the healthy stuff inside it. And it's enjoyed by many different generations variations here in the country, and there are different types of these samgyetang as well. And other than this hot soup, though, we also have, of course, it's one of the other very popular dishes in the country. You know what it is. Yes, fried chicken. Yes, we have it with beer as well, not just the chicken itself, but as you see, we have it with beer, and this is the Daegu Chimek Festival, and Chimek is often appearing in the different Korean dramas as well, so I'm sure a lot of foreigners are very familiar with the concept, the combination of fried chicken and 맥주 or beer as well. And they're both very much enjoyed by the young people in the country, as you see in the video.
Yeah, I know chimek is a very popular dish among a lot of youngsters here in Korea. I personally love chimek, especially drinking it at night, right in front of the river, like Han River or Cheonggyecheon Stream. But also, I'm quite curious as to whether the younger generation is as avid for samgyetang as much as they are for chimek.
Well, if you take a look at the screen once again, there's a chart. It was a survey to see what kind of foods that the younger generation in the country enjoy during summer. And actually, samgyetang was the most popular dish that was chosen by the young people in the country. And second on the list is fried chicken. I mean, you may wonder why we have that hot soup, such as samgyetang, during a hot summer, right?
Yeah.
But in Korea, we have the concept called 이열치열, which means to fight the heat with more heat. And this may be very unfamiliar with many of the foreigners, but hearty soups are believed to balance the body's temperature and help us regain energy and even relieve exhaustion and keep ourselves very healthy. And for some of the best samgyetang dishes, I recommend you go to Insadong, Myeongdong, or Jongno. And like I said, the second on the list was fried chicken. It's mostly enjoyed by the younger generation. And Korea is very famous for, of course, this last dish as well on the chart, which Yeon will talk about.
Which I will. But before I introduce you guys the very last dish, Walter, did you also like eating samgyetang?
I love eating samgyetang. It's one of my favorite foods to eat, but I wouldn't eat it every day because it's just full of calories. For people who don't know, it's a full chicken in the bowl of soup. So that's a lot of calories. It's like a daily calorie thing. But I find it interesting that we are talking about healthy food as well, and fried chicken is second on the list with beer. We both know that they aren't healthy. They're just they're good foods. But
hey, as long as it makes you happy, it could be healthy. I'm all for chimek. Let's add that into the list of the healthy, savory dishes you can have in Korea during the summer. Now, I would like to introduce you guys to the last healthy dish that I would love for you guys to try once you're in Korea in the summer. It's none other than Hanu beef, and Hanu is one of the 4 native breeds of Korean cattle. It's also known as the Wagyu beef of Korea, and the best Hanu cattle is usually raised in the Hwangseong-gun County of Gangwon-do Province. It can be grilled, sometimes even eaten raw like tartar, or as steak cuts. That's personally my favorite. And to have this quite expensive dish at a more affordable price, you can actually try visiting Majangdong in Songdo-gu District here in Seoul. There they have the largest meat market in Korea. Butchers sell fresh meat arriving every hour from all over the country, and thanks to that, prices are up to 30% cheaper than what you can find at franchise supermarkets. And I personally love having Hanu on my birthday because it's not that affordable. You can't go every day to have it, and as much as it's invigorating, it's very savory too. Do you like Hanu, Walter?
Of course I do. Steak is my favorite meat of all, and Hanu, like you said, is a real treat, but we can't eat it every day for people like you and I. To eat it every day would be overly expensive.
Because we don't even eat small portions. We eat a lot too.
We eat a lot, right? Sometimes the bill is far too high for me to afford, but yes, I love the way we cook it here in Korea. Usually if you go to Western countries, it's either your big steak, which is still very nice, but we cut it down to like little portions, and it just melts in your mouth, and you enjoy the moment. I love it.
For sure. What about you, Jihi?
I love Hanu. Just like Walter said, I like the little thin slices a lot, but they're too expensive. Yes.
I wish they could make better use of it. Like, have you ever been to Majangdong Market?
Oh no. Are they cheaper there?
Yeah, I've been there a few times, and it's much cheaper. and it's really good because they have the butcher is on the ground floor and their restaurant's in the top floor.
Oh, I see.
So usually what you do is you bargain with the lady or the butcher behind the counter, and then they take you up to the restaurant and then you cook it straight there. So it's so fresh.
Right, and today we've introduced you guys to 3 dishes that we personally think, and they're quite traditionally known as invigorating, healthy foods you can have during the hottest times of the summer here in Korea. But also, apart from these these dishes, there's so many other types of foods that you can try. So before we end off, why don't you guys share your own tips? It doesn't have to be ERTR. It could be like something completely new as to how you spend summer here in Korea and what types of food you guys have, starting with you, Walter.
Well, one of my favorite foods to eat during the summer is the cold buckwheat noodles, or the mulnaengmyeon here in Korea. Bibimbap is also very popular. I don't know why I like the mulnaengmyeon better, but yes.
Hey, I like bibimbap.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the mulnaengmyeon better because I like slurping the. It's like a good mulnaengmyeon has like the icy kind of broth, right?
Yeah.
If it's not icy, then it's not good. I don't think in my opinion.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Yeah. So it's got to be really cold, and you got to put some mustard in it, and also I think it's vinegar as well. But yeah, it's really tasty. That's if you just want something refreshing rather than something hot, if you're not used to eating hot food on a hot day like here in Korea. So that is my #1 pick. Definitely try that out. There's some great restaurants that sell it.
What about you, Chi? Any recommendations?
Right. If you're not a big fan of ERTR, how we fight heat with more heat.
Yeah.
Yes. Other than the cold buckwheat noodles, I would also like to recommend kongguksu, which is a noodles in soybean soup. Yes, I love it too. And I was surprised that Giselle and Leon mentioned them in their comments. They already know about it. But for those of you who haven't tried it, please do try it either with salt or sugar. And there's also the bingsu shaved ice, Korean shaved ice as dessert, and also try chamue, which is the Korean melon. It's really good. It's yellow and tiny. It's really good. It's a very famous or popular summer fruit, and also maybe go to the movies for a horror movie.
That's a good idea.
Because a chill down the spine is another way of maybe fighting the heat in the summer.
You can cool yourself down. And before I let you guys go, how would you recommend to your international friends coming to Korea to look for the best restaurants here in Seoul?
I would have to agree with Chihi that Jongno is the best area for the best restaurants in Seoul, in my opinion, because there's such a variety there. As we talked about last week, there's also like a hip area.
Yeah, hipjiro.
Hipjiro. So there are so many places. There's the traditional market as well. If you want to try real, authentic Korean, you have to go to those markets because they sell, from like sundae as well as kimbap, all different kinds of traditional foods. I mean, they don't have to be always healthy, of course. We are talking about healthy food today, but we also talked about fried chicken and beer. So let's talk about other things as well. Traditional Korean food, you have to try it whether it looks strange or not. I think, give it a go.
Give it a go, as long as you're in Korea. When will you ever try it again? So try it out. What about you, Chihi?
Well, I mentioned samgyetang. You should go to Myeongdong, Insadong, and Jonglo. But with fried chicken, the Suwon Street is very popular.
Really?
Other than Seoul, yes, in Suwon. And also for kongguksu, the best kongguksu I had was in Jeonju.
Jeonju?
Yes, and they add sugar in it. I usually have it with salt, but sugar in those soybean noodle soup was really good.
Yeah,
so I recommend you go to Jeonju and Suwon as well.
Though our Friday episodes, it's Visit Seoul 2023, there's just so many different restaurants around the nation you can go to. And thankfully, because we have such good public transport like the KTX, different trains, even planes, you can go around and try different food. And one recommendation I would like to give you guys is ask people on the street. They would be more than happy to share their list of matjib, or like hottest restaurants you can go to. And hopefully you can spend your weekend by doing that. And we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And thank you everyone for watching. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. We are News Generation.
Welcome.